Honorable panel, the side opposition got up here today and said that authority means standing at the blackboard and yelling at your students and telling them that what they want doesn't matter, that there's no fun, there's no laughter, students don't get to socialize, students don't get to enjoy their educational experience. But that is not the description of authority that we see on our side of the house. Authority means strict schedules, it means greater oversight, it might mean stronger disincentives and stronger incentives for students, but it doesn't mean that there's no laughter, that there's no fun, that teachers and students don't have a special relationship, and it doesn't mean that there are no group projects and no areas where students can also learn these soft skills that Joe talked about. So first of all, I'm going to talk about I have two new points of constructive to bring in before I go into refutation. First of all, why it leads to better social education on our side of the house, and also why it's actually better for teachers themselves to emphasize authority over enjoyment of students. So for better social education, right now you see students enter school in like the first grade or kindergarten or whatever, and they immediately they immediately find their best friends, they immediately form social cliques, they immediately judge each other off of preliminary things, whether or not it's just like they have the same truck in the sandbox or whatever. And these relationships often last a very long time. And on side government, we support these relationships. They're also very important to have a good, close group of friends. But at the same time, we see that it leads to cliques, it leads to people remaining in their same social group, it leads to people making judgments off of prejudices that they've had in their lives, that they've grown up having and never have had challenged because they've always gotten to choose who they set aside. They've always gotten to choose who they worked with on a group project. They've always gotten to choose who they interacted with during the day. In the worst case scenario, this means that some students are bullied, and I'm very upset with the fact that side opposition completely ignored the fact that bullying does exist and that a lot of students actually think that it's fun. But also, in the worst case scenario, it means that some students are completely alienated. We know all the harms that come from bullying. The best case scenario is that students don't ever challenge the prejudices that maybe their families had ingrained in them or the ones that they grew up with, and they don't get the diverse kind of experience. How does this motion change that? This motion means that the teacher's authority they'll choose the seating arrangement in class. They'll choose who is going to work with who on the next project, and students will start to interact with other students that otherwise they never would have. They'll get to know students that originally they may have judged based off of what they were wearing or based off of what kind of toys they brought to school or whatever. And instead, they'll learn to work with people who they normally wouldn't work with. They'll learn to work with people who don't fit into their social group. And they'll learn, and these are lasting skills. I'll take you actually after I'm done. And these are lasting skills that will help them in future years when they work in an office, rather than working with the same people, the people who fit their idea of who they should be working with, for their whole lives until one day they enter an office situation and they have to suddenly work with someone from a different cultural background or different social standing, and they don't know how to do it, or their underlying prejudices continue to get in the way. Why would you disagree?
Okay, do you really think that a seating arrangement undermines the enjoyment of people's experience in class?
I don't think that a seating arrangement has to undermine the enjoyment of a student's experience in class. In fact, I think that it could lead to greater enjoyment because you end up being best friends with the person that you sat beside. But it does prioritize authority over the enjoyment, because at first that's not what the student would have thought would be the most fun situation for them. At first they sit beside the kid that nobody likes, and they're upset that they don't get to sit beside their best friends, and for the first couple of days it's not fun, but then eventually they learn all the social skills and soft skills that I was talking about. Moving on to why it's better for the teachers and why this leads to better education. Because right now you see a lot of young, excited teachers going into their first year of teaching at a school, and they are so ready to be everybody's favorite teacher. They're going to take them outside every day, they're going to play music all the time, they're going to let students stand up and tell jokes, and the problem with this is that it's quite literally a slippery slope with students, because as soon as you take them outside a few times one week, next week they expect it every single time. As soon as you let students tell jokes for the first couple of days, you lose control of the classroom and everyone goes crazy, and then what happens to the teacher? The teacher faces burnout. The teacher turns around and lashes out with the opposite approach, which is just be completely mean and eliminate all kinds of fun. Authority doesn't mean eliminating all fun on our side of the house, but it means maintaining a certain level of fun, controlled fun, if you will, so that teachers can maintain the kind of relationship with students for a longer period of time. It means we have more experienced teachers who aren't mean, and there's less turnover of teachers who decide they hate it, and this means that they can form long-lasting and meaningful relationships with their students. Moving on to what Joe said. So he said that happier students learn better, but I think that I've proven on our side of the house, we're not saying that the students are going to be unhappy. It just means that there's going to be times during the day where they listen to music, and then that ends and we're moving on. It doesn't matter whether or not that's actually what you want, student. This is how it works because I'm the teacher. It also means that they learn how to concentrate. These are other important skills that you learn from very strict teachers that you're kind of a little bit afraid of. You learn how to take notes properly because that teacher is going to criticize you. You learn you have to do your homework because that teacher is going to criticize you. You learn that you can't just turn around and talk to your friends or ask them what the answer to the homework question was because they're going to criticize you and you're going to get in trouble and you're going to be embarrassed or anything. None of those things are fun, but it does mean that you learn a lot of work ethic that actually will take you further in the long run than the enjoyment that you would have had otherwise. He also seems to say that students will be better behaved because they want to have fun, and so if the teacher is trying to maintain authority and the students are just going to turn around and talk to their friends, we think this is an ineffective display of authority from students, and the students don't actually respect the teacher that is giving has the authority position in this case. Lastly, he talks about how the social interaction is what gives students confidence and leads them to actually gain later on. I would actually say that this is only for certain students. This is for the class clown that everybody laughs with. This is for the popular girls who have their social cliques affirmed during recess and whatever. And meanwhile, there are students who are left behind, students who actually become less and less confident because they realize what they aren't. And that when the teacher maintains that, thank you.